Now, protests against immigration crackdown has now spread across the United States as streets of LA become the ground zero of demonstrations. There's a political slugfest going on between Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was grilled by U.S. House Appropriations Committee on the cost of deployment of troops in L.A. He made it absolutely clear that deployment of troops for Homeland Security will expand under President Trump.
I think we're entering another phase, especially under President Trump, with his focus on the homeland, where the National Guard and Reserves become a critical component of how we secure that homeland and apply those civilian sets across the spectrum.
Hegseth said deployment of National Guard and Marines is aimed at protecting ICE agents. But when he was asked about the cost of moving in the National Guard and Marine Corps, he exercised his right to remain silent. Hegseth's grilling before the House committee comes after U.S. President Donald Trump said Los Angeles would have burned to the ground if he did not act. On the state front, California Governor Gavin Newsom is taking on Donald Trump. Newsom accused Trump of authoritarianism. The political battle from Washington to California comes after President Trump doubled down on troops deployment as soon as the protests escalated. Trump ordered 2,000 more National Guards to be deployed in LA. Along with this, he has also called in 700 Marine personnel, often referred to as U.S. elite fighting force. Earlier today, protesters and police came face to face in Santa Ana area of southeast of LA, where sounds of flashbangs and firecrackers were heard. Security forces dispersed protesters using rubber bullets and armored vehicles in downtown LA. These demonstrators had gathered outside a federal detention center in downtown where immigrants had been held. Immigration crackdown and following protests that began in LA first spread within the state of California to San Francisco and capital Sacramento. But now they're being reported from California to New York. In Texas, protests were reported in Dallas, Austin, Houston, and San Antonio. People also took to the streets in Philadelphia, Boston, and Chicago. These are the visuals from Texas, where protests were reported in two major cities of Dallas and Austin. Multiple people were detained after a street showdown with police officers. California Governor Gavin Newsom came down heavily on President Trump. Newsom slammed the move as deranged and un-American. In a social media post, Newsom wrote, U.S. Marines should not be deployed on American soil facing their own countrymen to fulfill the rearranged fantasy of a dictatorial president. This is the first time since 1965 that U.S. President has sent National Guard troops to a U.S. city without a governor's approval. And the move has sparked a political tug of war between Democrats and Republicans. All right, let's head to Washington, D.C. We do understand that U.S. President Donald Trump is currently addressing the press on the situation in L.A. Let's just listen in.
Maybe be out there. I don't know, but Christy, could you speak to that?
Absolutely. So in 2020, I was a governor of a neighboring state to Tim Walz and watched him let his city burn. And the president and I have talked about this in the past, and he was not going to let that happen to another city and to another community where a bad governor made a bad decision. So Claudia Sheinbaum came out and encouraged more protests in LA, and I condemn her for that. She should not be encouraging violent protests that are going on. If people are allowed to peacefully protest, but the violence that we're seeing is not acceptable, and it's not going to happen in America. This president is standing up for the average American who wants to walk their child to school every day safely, run their small business, and provide for their families. That's the action that he's taken. He has every authority under the Constitution to send these National Guard under Title X into these communities and make sure that operations go smoothly, that law enforcement officers are protected, that they can continue to do their work without fear of being injured or killed or disrespected, and that they can go home to their families at night. So I'm incredibly proud of the President for activating the National Guard and for sending in these Marines, because these Marines are specifically trained to meet the need that we have on the ground in LA right now. And Governor Newsom has done a disservice to the state of California for many years. The people there should never elect him into a leadership position ever again. He
The
clearly
governor's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. When it comes to his railroad that he's building, where it's like 30 times over budget, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Now it doesn't even go to San Francisco and LA. It's way short of it. After years of work and overruns like nobody's, those contractors are some of the wealthiest people in the world, I guarantee you that, because that money goes to those contractors. They just did a number on the wallet of the people of California. That train, you should look at that train. That is the greatest. I've never seen cost overruns. I've seen cost overruns and great incompetence over my life. I've never seen anything like that.
Mr. President, these protests obviously started in reaction to these large-scale ICE operations in Los Angeles. Should people expect to see similar operations in the rest of the country?
Yeah.
And would similar protests see similar response?
As you know, we're moving murderers out of our country that were put here by Biden or the auto pen. The auto pen really did. I mean, the people, whether it's Lisa Monaco or whoever operated the auto pen, these are criminals. The people are criminals that allowed these criminals into our country. And I don't think that Biden knew what the hell he was doing. I don't think he even knew about it. But when they opened up our borders for the whole world to come in, yeah, we're going to get them out. We're getting them out. We're starting to get acknowledgement from the courts that, you know, there's a system. They come in without courts and they go out after they want trials and everything else. I think that's starting to work out now. Judges are starting to see what a terrible situation it is. Many of those people that you saw on television last night are criminals that were allowed into our country by Biden. And they want to stay, and we don't want them. And they come from jails, and they come from mental institutions, and they come from all over the world, not just South America. And we're not going to let them stay. And this is the first, perhaps, of many, or perhaps, you know, if we didn't attack this one very strongly, you'd have them all over the country. But I can inform the rest of the country that when they do it, if they do it, they're going to be met with equal or greater force than we met right here. We did a great job. The people, you, Christy, and Tom Holman, and all of the people, Pete Hegseth, all of the people involved did an amazing job. We stopped a disaster. And it looks like a planned disaster, not just, this didn't just happen. They had weapons, they had tools, they had everything you needed. I mean, they were throwing iced water in bottles, in glass bottles, at officers and at soldiers. These are, you could not use the word insurrection, but you could also use the word, these are very dangerous people, they're bad people. They were met with heavy force and they folded. And they may be there a little bit tonight, they may be there a little bit, but it seems to be getting less and less because they're going there and they're met with a very heavy force. And if they weren't, you would have that city right now would be on fire. It would be burning down. The rest of it, what's left over, because the other fire was started because they wouldn't allow water into LA. They wouldn't allow water into California because they had it all shifted out to the Pacific Ocean. And I turned it around. And I told them to do it in my first term, and they didn't do it. We had COVID, and they didn't do it. And I told them to do it. We did it in the second. Now we have billions of gallons of water flowing down. But Newsom should have done this. He's an incompetent man, an incompetent governor. Okay, any other questions?
Mr. President, any message to adversaries as the Army kicks off 250-year birthday celebration?
I just think it's amazing. We're going to have a fantastic June 14th parade, Flag Day. It's going to be an amazing day. We have tanks, we have planes, we have all sorts of things. And I think it's going to be great. We're going to celebrate our country for a change. You know, recently, as you know, with World War II, the victory of World War II, I called up France and they were celebrating the victory. Well, we helped them a lot, as you know. I don't have to get into that. But I called up other countries. They're all celebrating the victory. We're the only country that didn't celebrate the victory. And we're the one that won the war. Okay, if it wasn't for us, that war, you would be speaking German right now, okay? We won the war, and you might be speaking Japanese too. I mean, you might be speaking a combination of both. We won the war, and we're the only country that didn't celebrate it. And we're going to be celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester who wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, you know, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
Mr. President, one last question.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you, press.
Thank you.
Press. Let's move out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, press. Thank you.
All right, so that is live at the White House. And what you just saw there is Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem backing U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to send in the National Guard and the Marine, saying that if he did not do that, then LA could have burned to the ground. And the president says that these measures will be taken to other states if at all the residents in those states decide to riot or face the police. He actually went hard on Governor Gavin Newsom, saying that he's done a very bad job, and he thanked his secretaries for doing a good job by sending in the National Guard and the Marine. This is live at the White House, Washington, D.C. For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.